Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm the host, Diane Gibbs, and I am joined by my good friend Lenny Terenzi, and I'm excited to have him on. He's an amazing attitude and an amazing illustrator and designer, and screen printer. He does a lot of things. So Lenny, thanks so much for being here today.
I am so excited. Oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Awesome. Well, so there were so many things that we could talk about, so I was like, maybe we'll just have to do a part two. So, and we had some questions from the audience too, and I always like to get those in. And if you're like, how can I get my question in? One, you can write it in the chat over there, or you can send it to me in an email before you, like I send out the questions the night before. You can always just hit reply and send back. So, hey to Jason and Zach and Kevin and Josh and anybody else in the room, but those are the only people who are saying hey. So use the chat, say hey, heckle Lenny, and anyway, so we had some questions. We're going to get to those questions first, or right after he does his intro. So Lenny, give us a little bit of and Tracy, thank you. Give us a little bit about your background and how you got in, just even from the beginning, involved with illustration and design and typography, lettering, and then screen printing.
Sure. I was always the kid who drew in the margins of his paper, in schoolwork, draw. That was me always. So that's kind of like, it's always been in me. My grandmother was a really good artist. My dad could draw really well. My mom, not so much at all, zero. But she really encouraged the heck out of me, and just kind of kept pushing me into doing that kind of stuff. And so it just kind of was like, I don't know if I ever really thought about doing anything else. Like, I didn't know what graphic design and like illustration was then, but I knew I wanted to like draw or make pictures forever. And when I realized I could make money at it, that was really cool. So yeah, go ahead.
No, we'll keep going.
No, so I was going to say, so just that kind of just led into high school, getting into high school, and I went to a magnet school, which had an accelerated arts program, where I endlessly clashed with all my art teachers. They were absolutely always wrong, and I was absolutely always right. So, the classic kind of thing there. But there was a class in high school called, then it was called Communication Arts, and it was kind of the precursor. This was in the late 80s to like what I think most classes would call graphic design right now. So I took that, and then in my junior year or senior year, I took a class called print, and kind of when I went downstairs, there was the full print lab with a Mac and a printer, like one of the little square boxy ones. Where's my? There we go. And that was it. That kind of started it.
So, really, it was high school. Did you ever? So now you didn't grow up in North Carolina, though, right?
I did not. No, I grew up. I'm reading some of the chat. No, I grew up at age 10 in upstate New York. I was in Kingston and Binghamton and Endicott, like all in the upstate area, and then moved down here with my mom and my stepdad in 1982 to North Carolina when I was 10.
So, all right. So, but you did go to high school then in North Carolina.
I mean, if people ask me where I grew up, I say here, because really, 9, 10 years old, my formative years, where I learned all my bad habits were here.
Right, of course. So, screen printing, was that part of that high school stuff, or was that like a love later?
No, that was funny, but I mean, I really enjoyed, like, in school it was offset printing. Like, we had full 4-color offset presses, in high school. I mean, it was a huge print lab. Screen printing, honestly, is a very recent thing. Like, I would always look at it and just admire it, the artistry, being a musician as well, and touring and seeing, like, band posters and all that. I was like, that's so cool. I would love to do that someday. And that was really only, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, like, really kind of, like, saying this is something I would like to do. And then when I got introduced to AIGA Raleigh, in my very first meeting, I had said, for anybody who was at my Creative South talk, I went to that first meeting and tried to hide in the back of the room like most people do when they go to, a first thing. And I got yanked out of the room and put on camera and said, if we were going to give you a sum of money, what would you want to do with it? Something that you've been wanting to learn, but maybe money was the obstacle. And I was like, all right, I'd like to learn to screen print and or letterpress. And lo and behold, they picked me for the moolah, and I just went on a journey of self-learning and discovery. Took classes, bought equipment, and then went way big with it.
So what happened for however many years ago? I don't know exactly the timeline. So what happened that really, because before you were a designer and now you're like on fire. So what happened that sparked?
So when I
the change.
Yeah, when I started, fresh out of school, I started freelancing or started a business with somebody, which was the biggest mistake in the world. Like always, 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 always get a job first if you can. I mean, maybe some people can do it, but even if you are just like the biggest awesome business person, get a job. See how other people do it. The biggest thing you can see is see how other people handle mistakes, so you know how to handle them. So that was the first mistake I made. But then I kind of righted the ship and got a real job, you know, as people would call it, at a game company, which was a division of a software company in North Carolina. And that kind of started my actual graphic design career. But by that point, I was kind of fired up then to get stuff going. But they were, you know, it was very much a corporate landscape. So things were set in their ways, and it was like, this is how it needs to be done, and blah blah blah. And so that was kind of one of my first times of like where I probably should have made either left or really kind of made some noise, and I just kind of put up with it because it's a really good company. I'm certainly not trying to slag them as a business. They're an excellent company and take care of their employees well and took care of me and my family well. But I probably, in hindsight, like should have left then. And found like a smaller, scrappier agency type setting. So through like that, and then you know I had gotten married in that time there to somebody who also worked there, and just kind of had that long, you know, as life happens, just really just kind of got complacent and lost the fire, and relationship kind of went bleh, and had some challenges initially, you know, with the birth of Bella, who's hanging out back there. She'll come over and say hi later, and just kind of got all kind of just wrapped up, you know, in all that. And you know, I think I said in my talk, like, you know, all that is very important, you know, stuff to concentrate on. Of course, family, and especially, you know, when you have a baby, but you still need to keep a little bit for yourself to challenge yourself and push yourself, and that's what I didn't do. You know, I kind of just let myself kind of fall into not a depression so much. Like I wasn't just like hating life, but I sure wasn't getting it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you were kind of doing a design rut. You were just kind of going. You were going to work. You were doing stuff, but it wasn't like it is now, where it's at night and you're doing it, and it's on the weekends and you're doing the stuff, and you were keeping some things that you were doing. You were keeping more private, or you just maybe weren't doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, you know, there was a lot of happy times in there, you know, family-wise, a ton. You know, it wasn't by any means like crappy for 15 years.
Right.
But career-wise and creativity-wise, definitely I did that to myself. That, you know, there's no excuse for, you know, like I know you put in the thing like life kind of hands you lemons, make lemonade.
Right.
I let the lemons be handed to me sometimes and didn't make the lemonade until kind of, you know, what eventually happened, unfortunately, was divorce, and kind of got out on my own, and you want to learn how to swim, get shoved in the deep end, and so it's like, okay, well now I have to, and this is the only thing I know how to do, so let's figure out why I'm not liking it, and that kind of started the journey into where, you know, the last couple of years.
So when did you start back freelancing full time?
That was actually. So for most of the marriage, I was freelancing.
Okay.
Yeah, 2001, so Bella was a year old at that point when I started.
Were you doing Hey Monkey, or was it something else? And that was one of the questions from Matt. Yeah. He asked, when you first started freelancing, did you brand yourself as an individual freelancer? And he says this isn't a bad example, but I think it's hilarious, so I'm going to share it. So thanks, Matt, for letting me share this. It says Lenny's Design, or immediately brand yourself as Hey Monkey, and why? And I think that's a really important kind of question.
Yeah, you know, I didn't originally. I mean, that's always been her nickname, but originally it was just my name, kind of graphic designer. Always did not like it. I like my name, but I've never liked it as like my name plus what I do.
Right.
And so it took quite a few years to really settle on that. Like I was like, what do I want? I don't want to just pick something, you know, to pick it. I wanted it to be sort of personal to me. And then that's when I went back like, well, the most personal thing to me is Bella. So what can it, from there, what can it be? And my first idea was 111 design because she was born on January 11th. But this was right after 9/11. So I was like, yeah, let's not stir those feelings into it.
Right.
So I kind of just went on my own, just as kind of my name for as much as I did it for quite a few years until I finally was like, there it is, Hey Monkey. And so I know that was one of the questions, like, why Hey Monkey? And that came into because like the instant she was born, you know, when I held her and I looked down at her, the first thing I said to her was, Hey Monkey. And that's pretty much what I say every day. Right, Bella? Yeah. That's right. If you look at our text log between Bella and I, it pretty much says monkey, and then it's daddy, and that's like pretty much, you know, all our texts. So.
That's hilarious. Okay, so you got a divorce, and then when did you start Hey Monkey? Was Hey Monkey before? You changed. You know, okay, so how much before, and then you got a divorce, you decided to go and you made some changes. So this could be for somebody, it could be losing a job, it could be moving to a new city, it could be anything that's kind of changing the regular path and you want to make a new name. And I think that's why this is really cool. And hey, John.
Right, no, exactly. So for quite a few years, so let's say really from 2000 until 2008, I was also a guitar player in a band that toured and traveled and recorded records. Actually, I should have sent you some links that people could send out just if they want to see that part of it. There's a lot of YouTube videos of me and us playing out there, and I'll send those to you. So I did that for quite a few years as I think a way to plug the creativity hole that I was feeling design-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But as happens with musicians, where it's nothing but kind of ego, I always kind of say egos and a-holes because that's pretty much what it comes down to. I finally, like in 2007, like said, I quit. I'm done. I got to stop doing music, and I just because I was tired of not making money. You know, neither one of the things was making money. I wasn't passionate about either one of the things. So in 2007, I decided to quit. In January 2008, I rebranded myself as Hey Monkey. But I was still not confident in my skills, confident in what I was doing. I still was kind of like not really sure, like, you know, is this something I want to do? Because this was kind of getting into the tail end of the marriage where things weren't going so well. You know, I wasn't much into branding or illustrating as much then. I had let those skills very much lapse in all those years. So I actually hired Von Glitchka to do my first logo. So at least I had the foresight, like, all right, if I'm not going to do it, let me just go to like the king,
right,
to do it. And so he did my very first one, my first monkey logo, and I liked it and everything. And even though it was awesome, he was awesome to work with, and we're buddies now. But even through all that, like every time I would have it, I was like, you know, this is kind of weird, actually. Like I didn't, you know, a lot of people do that who are designers. They'll hire out because maybe it's not their strong suit, but for some reason it never sat well with me. But I was still just in that space of like, you know, I got something. Let's just kind of push forward and move with it. So that was 2008, 9, 10. Boom, the bomb dropped. So 10. So now we're talking 5 years ago. 11. Moved out of the house, late 11, you know, and just kind of like now I have to kind of get the fire back. Still kind of had that logo, starting to do a little bit better, starting to feel a little bit more into it. Connected with AIGA Raleigh, just on a very peripheral basis. Like I was very much on the outside. I'd go to an event, maybe a meeting, and then I'd be gone for like 4 months. Then I go again, do something else, and that was about a year and a half. So into like 2012.
I'm writing Jason's comment down.
Yeah, and that's in that span I met Kristen, who is now my fiance, who really kind of pushed me to like, you gotta, suck it up, dude. It's time. You've got some talent. You've got, just kind of. She was putting that confidence back in me, like, you're really good. You're really good. You got to work at it. You're really good. You need to do this. You got to, And so I started like hearing it enough. I started to believe it. Because when your confidence gets that low, I referenced this in my talk. I was kind of like a child a little bit. Like, you have to kind of just reinforce. So that's when I went to that first meeting that I told you about, where I got, filmed and everything. And it was during that. So this was 2012, and in probably September, October 2012, I do not know how I found this, but I came across online Creative South, this conference in Georgia, and the lineup was awesome. It was draft that year was 20. So this would have been Creative South 2013. I found it in 12, so they were pushing, selling tickets for 2013. And it was Draplin and James White and Raji and just like all these like the Hood sisters, like just great lineup in Georgia. I'm in North Carolina, and it was like $75. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe this. So I just like, without any planning or whatever, I just bought a ticket. I was like, I'm gonna, made myself go to it. It was very out of character for me. It was like, again, I was still very introverted, and I was coming out of it with AIGA Raleigh, but I still wasn't at that point involved with them. I was now regularly going to meetings, as any other member would, but I was not like what I am now with them, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. So, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to April 2013, and so I went to Creative South, and then that's where the dam broke, just in the water. Moses parted the sea.
And you went with one other person, right? And everybody thought you were together. So you had and you weren't, but you had.
I had my buddy.
Yeah.
And she was, so her name's Ashley Bennett. She works for New Media Campaigns, who they're also just, I say they're clients because I've been on retainer with them for a long time, but they are far, far beyond that. They are absolutely like family to me. But so we went together. She was somewhat new there and somewhat a new designer then. And so, yeah, we kind of went down. It was both our first design conference. And we definitely didn't throw ourselves into Creative South like I'm known to now. We were just like, whoa, what is this? This is like all these awesome people. And we just kind of stayed and watched and everything. But the turning point for me, which I didn't talk about in my talk purely for time purposes, was because I ran way over. I was going upstairs to see Sean McCabe talk. To see his talk on, I think it was on passion, was essentially the umbrella topic of his that year. And as everybody knows, he is an unbelievably nice guy. I walked up and started talking to him. He's like, "Oh, you got a card?" And I handed him my card, and he looked at it. He's like, "Oh, this is nice. Did you do this?" And anybody who asked me that, I would never say that I did it. I was never like, "Yeah," because it's my logo. I was like, "No, I had that done for me. Von Blichka did it," and it was just like inside. Like those cartoons where you fly inside. It was like a little whack, a stick broke, and I was like, that's like, I just felt like here I am in front of somebody I admire, and at a design conference, and on this level, like these people that then I put on a pedestal, and I learned you don't need to do that because they don't want to be there. I was like, I'm never ever gonna say that again to anybody, that I didn't do this if I'm handing them something. There's instances where people in photography and all that I didn't do, but as far as like an actual thing, so at that point I committed myself to when I went home from Creative South, I was going to completely burn down what I'd done and start from absolutely the ground up, and that's what I did.
So that was 2013, April?
Yep.
Okay. So that's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So you went, because when I met you was at your sophomore year of Creative South and my freshman year, 2014, which it is an awesome conference. Oh, I always forget to make me bigger. Sorry about that. So really, design community really helped you kind of grow. But I do think that there's some hold back? Why all those years of not getting involved? So, I always wonder about people like that. So, what was it? I think the question, and I was rearranging my question, so I realized it doesn't make sense. But many designers don't think that they have the time for design community, and you had a small baby, there's lots of other things that are going on, and that they don't really know that it's going to add that much to their life or work. Or can you kind of talk about that, maybe debunk some of those, or maybe something that you felt like that you were like, I don't know why I thought that?
Yeah, it's funny. I think about that all the time. Like, why? Because it was completely a self-imposed cave, a self-imposed darkness. Like, it was completely me. Like, I'm very much admit that, because I don't want it to sound like a sob story. Like, oh, life handed me all this bad stuff. Life hands everybody crappy stuff from time to time. Some people just absolutely take it and run with it, and I didn't. I took it and hid for a long time. So I think for me, it was just got to be habitual. I started not doing it, really getting involved, and I just kind of let it go that way and go and go and go, and just kind of concentrated on what was very important stuff, and that's raising my daughter, because regardless, she's I'd give up everything right now if I needed to.
Right.
But again, you still have to figure out how to carve out that little piece for you. And so for me, I think it was because, okay, when I did get divorced and all this change happened, I looked at everything and I was like, well, I've got this rare opportunity to completely change my life. Like, I can change everything about my life except the one thing that I don't want to change, which is being a dad. I can mold everything else around that. So to kind of go back to exactly what your question was, it was just, you just kind of have to make the time. I know it sounds so ambiguous and everything. Sean McCabe says that a lot. You just need to make the time. Well, my excuse was, oh, I'm busy. I'm not busy, dude. You're playing your Xbox at night, or whatever for all those hours. And I could have gone to AIGA meetings, back then, or I could have started working on skills, or designing or drawing, and I didn't. So it's just one of those things of just finding the time, and you don't have to stop playing your Xbox or doing that stuff. I play video games all the time still, but I now dedicate other things into those, into those kind of that time. So I know it sounds really ambiguous and like, but that's really what it is. It's just like you have to decide it's going to be a priority. There it is. You just have to make that decision.
Well, priorities, I think your daughter's always top, but then you decided to also start investing in yourself instead of just always giving it to everybody else. And I think that that's been a huge thing for me as well. So would you agree that you started investing in you?
Absolutely. When I joined AIGA Raleigh, it was at the very beginning purely for selfish reasons. Period. Hands down. Like, I was going in there like, okay, what can you guys do for me? I'm here. I am new. Absolutely. And I think almost anybody's doing that when you sign up to an organization where you're writing them a check. It's like, I'm handing you money. What are you going to give me?
Right.
I'm going to circle around to that is completely the wrong way to think about, like, especially an organization like AIGA. But that's initially what I kind of thought, when I went into it, was, here's money, I'm investing in myself. What are you gonna do for me? And the same thing with like other things, like conferences. Like, I then went to WMC Fest after Creative South. That was my deadline for my rebrand, by the way. I was like, I'm going to the next big conference. I'm going to show up.
That's August.
That was
right?
August of 2013. Yeah. So in that time, I did what is everybody kind of knows now is my monkey logo. Did that and had it ready for WMC Fest 2013. The response to that little logo was like awesome for me, like on a scale of what some people may think is like, a lot of people getting interest. Maybe it was not, but to me it was like, everybody was like, dude, that's really cool. And to hear that from outside stuff, like, I was like, I like that feeling. It was, I still needed ego boosting for sure. So it was nice to get that media feedback at a design conference, of that caliber. So yeah.
So when you rebranded, I think the question, another question Matt had was, how would you characterize your design style do you think of yourself more as an illustrator now, or you still think of yourself more as a designer, or how are you kind of approaching that?
Yeah, so I've just kind of started. You and I talked about this the other day, and I actually just talked about it. I don't think she's here because she has a meeting, but one of my super buddies is Brittany Barnhart, who's really starting to come into her own as an illustrator. Like, she's just like blowing up. And we were talking the other night about style, you know, picking a style, having a style, whatever. I'm definitely still searching for the style, and I think that might be like an eternal search. I think everybody probably is, even the people who have it locked down. I think they're always searching for sure. But I lean towards kind of 50s and 60s, like Hanna-Barbera. Like, I just like, that's what I grew up with, though, was that even though I was born in the 70s, those cartoons were still very much part of, you know, the 70s era. So, you know, I lean towards that stuff for sure. But as far as like establishing what I am definitely trying to transition myself to being an illustrator. I'd like to not leave design. I'd like to, you know, still have it be a facet, but I think I really want to do more illustration work. So I said this to you the other day, I have yet to actually do illustration work for a paid client. I've done all personal projects and everything, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm still an illustrator. I still put pen to paper or pixels to thing, and I draw pictures. And so, you know what, I'm calling myself an illustrator. Like, I've almost made that distinction in the last couple weeks, and I'm starting to flip my website over where it used to say graphic design, something and something. Now it says branding, illustration, screen printing. So I'm trying to really say what I am, because that's the work I want to get.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's super important. I think that those are nuggets that you have to hold on to, because you know, maybe it comes with time because you've been a designer for a number of years, but I also think it's what you want to stake your claim at from the beginning. And maybe you don't know, maybe you still need to try some things if you're just starting out as a designer, but if you find something that you really like and that you've gotten good response from, I think those things are important. If you're not getting good response from it, then maybe it's not a good, either you haven't marketed it to the right audience, or
right.
or you're, you know, with your colleagues, if they're getting the response that you want, then you'll get it from clients, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You just, you know, you kind of own it. You know, I think we even use the term fake it till you make it. You know, and that doesn't mean you're being disingenuous, you know, right. Not genuine with your work, but you just put it out, you know, just put stuff out there. And that's what I've done. I mean, if you kind of go to my Dribble page now, it's all like the Lunchbox Love drawings, a few logo, but like I just put all that stuff up there, so if people kind of go through 3 or 4 pages, they see like, oh, this is kind of a guy with a really whack sense of humor who likes to draw stuff, and, you know, things like that. So it's like, that's all I'm starting to put out there. I still do website design and other types of design, and I enjoy it.
Right.
But for what I want to market me as, that's what I'm going to do.
Right. All right, so I want to get to this question that Jason has. As a parent of a child with special needs, how do you combat the guilt that can come with doing things for yourself? Because I think that was a big part of you in many years of. And how old is Bella now?
Now she's 15.
15. So.
Yeah. Hey, Bella. I'll bring her over to say hi.
Okay.
Yeah,
she's super talented.
There she is.
Hello.
Hey, Bella, how are you? Oh, you
can't hear me.
Hey, Bella, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You're super talented. I've shown everybody your dad's Facebook pictures of your work. So my sister lives in North Carolina. I said, if you ever need anybody to do anything, she's your girl.
I'm here.
You are. You're awesome.
Thank you.
All right, baby, go ahead. That's my girl.
So Doc Reed also says, to piggyback on Jason, how is it best to engage and share your love with art with your kids?
So yeah,
everybody's saying hey to Bella too.
Everybody says hi, Bella. That's everybody in the chat saying hi. So to jump back to Jason's first question about guilt, because I want to make sure we didn't skip over that. I think that's a self-imposed thing again. Like, you you can't. You have to show them that they when they become parents, or even if they don't, whether they become, you know, aunts or uncles or nieces or friends of, you know, whatever, they have to do stuff for themselves. They have to make themselves happy. They have to create and make things, whatever that is, whether it's art or not. So, you know, I don't feel guilty. I can't say I ever felt guilty back then, and I definitely don't feel guilty now. I just try to make sure that if I'm gone a couple nights or I'm doing things that, like I've been out a couple nights doing some AIGA stuff and all that, and like tonight I might be back here screen printing some stuff for Old South, but tomorrow night, like all day, it's me and Bella. We're going out to dinner. You know, it's like one of those things where I make sure that I give her time. You know, it's a little bit easier as she gets older. She's definitely independent. She's definitely self-sufficient. She has no problem just doing stuff, you know, by herself. We still love doing things together. I'm very proud of the fact that I still have a teenager that actually wants to spend time with me. But she wants to spend time with her. Exactly. It's because I'm super cool. But it's, you know, she likes to do her own thing too, and I want to give her that space, especially, you know, being special needs. I want to give her a lot of space, you know, to figure out how to do those things for herself. And I think that's physical, you know, mental special needs, whatever. So I really, the guilt is self-imposed, and that's not to say I can blame people like, well, that's just stupid. You shouldn't feel guilty. I completely understand it, but it's that kind of that thing of just saying, well, you know what? It's a life lesson. We need to teach the kids that I need an hour. I need 15 minutes. You know, I need whatever. You know, it could be the smallest amount of time. Kind of dedicate to yourself. And then to swing that into Doc's question, you could minimize that guilt that you might be feeling by including them, you know, to that. So for Bella and I, like, we would always color and draw and stuff, you know, all the time. But then for Bella and I started including her with the Lunchbox Love stuff. And I know we have pictures and stuff of that we can show some. So let's show
Bella's. Let's show Bella's crazy work.
Okay, so real quick, so Bella is really into, for the people who didn't go to Creative South or whatever.
She's into corn.
She's into yeah, she likes corn on the cob. There's a picture. Yeah. She's into special effects makeup, like big time. And she's done a couple of really cool things for Halloween, but last Comic-Con we had in March, she decided she wanted to be a walker from The Walking Dead. So she did all this work you're seeing on these pictures herself, custom prosthetics, application, paint. I was there mostly to kind of hold things in place and everything, but this was pretty much 100% her work. And that's the finished product right there, and that's no Photoshop whatsoever. That is a picture I snapped in the car. She was sitting next to me on the way to Comic-Con.
It's awesome.
Yeah, there's no touch-up work on that at all. Contacts, everything.
So she learned it all on her own. Did she take a class or anything?
Nope, she's watches Face Off. It's on the Sci-Fi Channel, and YouTube videos and books and YouTube videos, and honestly, just experimentation. You know, just sitting down and doing it. You know, just and making mistakes, and then making triumphs. You know, kind of all the stuff that I didn't do for all those years, where I just would try and fail and try and fail. Like I didn't even try. She's, you know, right from the get-go, she's trying and failing and trying and failing, and then boom, look at that, and it's like this massive success.
Right.
You know, when she went to Comic-Con, I mean, she was stopped 50, 60 times for photographs. Like, she was one of the cosplayers. Like, everybody wanted pictures with her.
Right.
And then she ended up getting a job out of it on an actual shoot, and like kind of this haunted house thing that's going to be coming up, doing makeup and stuff like that. So, super cool.
So include your kids in art.
Yes.
But also, it's really important that you show them that it's you have time, and you are inputting stuff in yourself, not just inputting. And as a professor, I think that for me, I see a lot of kids, maybe more recently rather than 10 years ago, but you know, sometimes they just don't have a really good clue of that the world doesn't revolve around them. So,
yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to teach kids.
I said in my Creative South Talk, the best way you can give everything to your kids is to not give everything to your kids.
Right. So
And
Johnny has a question. Bella, has she thought about making scary mask molds for mass production?
she hasn't. She has poured her own molds for like scars and cuts and stuff like that. But she is thinking about like doing some sort of booth or something at the next Comic-Con or something, possibly where she, people can come and you pay $10 and she'll like put a scar on you or something that looks really like gnarly and stuff. So she's thinking about it. She has to also grapple with, she's 15 in school and also has 47 other interests, but she started playing violin too, and she's really into that.
Cool.
So yeah, but she's definitely doing stuff with it.
So Sarah says there's casting calls for Walking Dead right now. Anyway, and Hannah says she's got a friend who works there. So Hannah, you'll have to we'll make sure that you guys get in touch. She should make Mike Jones a mask, Kevin says. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
She should.
And he could do his thing.
That's right, the mic.
Yeah. I don't know what he does. Anyway, all right, so back to, did we answer, Jason Frostholm, did we answer your question? So getting involved in the Raleigh community was really important.
Yes.
Also, giving back to yourself. So you've talked about conferences, I think, and you haven't just gone to just regional conferences. You did go to WMC, and then recently, just because you're so involved with AIGA Raleigh, you also went to, hey Shauna, you also went to AIGA National, the leadership. Does those things really impact you? How's that?
Oh, huge. So I'm, fast forward, going back to where I just kind of was a member of AIGA, and then I didn't even know how it happened. I just started raising, like when they needed stuff done, I just started raising my hand and said, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it, partially to just get more involved and be busy. And then all of a sudden I was just like, I was busy and I was doing it and I was having so much fun. And it was really funny, I went back where I said I kind of walked in with the attitude of what can you do for me? And it so quickly changed to what can I do for you? When I saw how selfless these people were and how much they loved the creative community, it wasn't about that they had to prove themselves to me. It was like, I paid money. I need to extract. I need to put the work in to extract the value back to me. Instead of just like sitting back and expecting them to hand me stuff or do stuff.
Right.
And they do. I mean, we have an unbelievably active, passionate, strong chapter. So that I could have done that. I could just sit back and be like, oh, I just want to take what they give because AIG really gives a lot, but I just couldn't do that. It's not in my nature anymore. I'm definitely like, go do it, go do it, go do it. So I just kind of got so involved, and then they had asked me to be on, we have what's called the community board. So you have all AIGA boards, as you know, have an elected board. We also have a community board where we kind of deputize people who really step up to kind of help and give them a title and stuff. So it feels like they have some ownership over the chapter, but it also helps us kind of groom what may be our next board. So we have a real sustainable future with our board, which is something we've just been talking about, a lot internally. And so they drafted me onto the community board as and I have several members here. I think it was the community and volunteer organizer was my first title. And so I did that for about 6 to 8 months. And then, all of a sudden when the next board was coming up, I got like these 3 phone calls. We had 2 presidents at the time. We had co-presidents because they were just both very busy, which was another kind of groundbreaking thing. We had co-presidents and then the vice president at the time, and all 3 called and were like, we really want you to be on the board. And it was just like, I was like stunned almost into speechlessness, like, what? Like, I've been around essentially for 1.5 years, and you're going to throw me on, the board to literally help shape and, make the community. And I just was like beside myself. I honestly getting slightly the tiniest bit choked up just talking about it right now, because like seriously, that's how much I love like our community. And so now I'm on the board as the director of Uniting People. That's the title that I was given because of what I like to do is bring people together.
So I have a question about that. So a lot of people go in, and a lot of people, if they're new and there's already a really big unit, they feel kind of on the outskirts, and you can kind of ride that, not necessarily at AIGA Raleigh, but maybe at some of other, AdFed or AIGA in other cities. Mm-hmm. So, that was really kind of a awakening part when you really got off that back row. So can you give somebody a tip as to how, like, I see it in my classes, kids who never talk, and I'm like, that's never going to help you, like, how is that going to help you get better? So can you give somebody a tip, because you were a back row seater, and now you're completely not?
Yeah, I am not. So for me, I had a little bit of difference because, they actually invested money in me. So I definitely felt like I can't. This is like, I have to, accountability. And that can be the motivator that you need sometimes to do that, was accountability. Like, they gave me this money, and I sat there and I said, here's what I'm going to do. Like, I told them, here's what I'm going to do. It was like, shit, I got to do it now. It's like, I've got to be accountable. I don't want to look, like an idiot in front of everybody.
Right.
So that was part of it, was the reason I got, but then also it was just the actual act of, like, you don't know me. You literally, when you decided to give me this money, I was nobody yet. I mean, not that anybody's nobody or whatever, but, like, as far as, like, people who know me. And I was like, why?
You hadn't been validated.
Yeah, why would you do that? Like, it was just like, what? This is just something I just said on camera and then walked into a meeting and then left, So it was just like this, like, again, it was that little bit of that child kind of thing where it was like, really? Like, you believe in me? And it felt good. So I felt like it was like, I gotta prove myself. So that's where my allegiance came from. But for somebody who doesn't maybe have that kind of push, where the chapter ended up giving me a good sum of money to do something, and I felt beholden. Not that they made me feel beholden. I felt it. I didn't have to pay the money back. It was literally a here, go do it. And we would just love for you to give back as much as you can. So I just kind of like took that to heart and I said, that's what I'm going to do. But for anybody else who's just getting involved, just make yourself accountable. Raise your hand, raise your hand to say, I'll do something, even if you don't think you can do it, or just volunteer, so you just kind of like make yourself accountable.
Right.
And then really do it. We've actually had, every once in a while in our own board meetings and stuff, we've kind of said, yeah, I got to kind of, like, I've actually been doing more AIGA than I have work, so I got to kind of stop for just a minute, because I might get in trouble, because, like, that's how passionate we are. Sometimes we do our chapter work before our actual jobs and stuff.
Right.
But then, again, that's that kind of accountability and passion and everything that it has. So I guess, yeah, for somebody just on the outside looking in, I mean, there's no magic phrase of just like, you've just got to be ready to say, I want to be part of something bigger. A phrase that we use in AIG Raleigh is one that MPR uses, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, if you believe what we believe, then sign up, kind of thing. Then join and whatever. And when we say, join, it doesn't mean that's, we don't use membership as a barrier. We would love for you to be a member. The money goes right directly to the chapter, and we put it all directly back into programming and stuff. The most important thing is for you to show up for us and be involved.
But you also, it's not like it's just AIGA. So your second year at Creative South, you're like, give me a table. I'm going to set up shop. I'm going to do the table. And I also think volunteer. Like, I have volunteered at Creative South from the get-go. I'm like, I'm really good at a table. I can check people in, but I don't want to miss any sessions. Right. So, get involved, volunteer, see what you can do. And I also think nobody knows you're quiet. You don't have to be that you can, it can be uncomfortable, but just get out there. I think for more introverted people, they're like, well, that's just not my thing. But really, the way to talk to people, the way to really connect, it doesn't mean you have to speak in front of a big group, but it means you have to have real conversations. Go to lunch with somebody you don't know.
Yes, yeah, that's the big thing. Like, I've tried to ban the word networking from my vocabulary, and I just call it community building, or just I call it meeting for lunch. Like, I don't like exchanging business cards anymore. That's like the last thing I want to do. What I try to do is like, well, can we meet for lunch next week or coffee next week? Like, then I'll hand them a card just so we have maybe a form of contact. But I don't like to do that. You're somebody I might be able to get business from. Here's a business card. Call me someday. It's like I try to really take the time and actually build like relationships with people. Uniting people is kind of what I like to do. It's like Jessica Hish said it. Is that when I heard her say it, I said, that's what I want to do. Don't network, make friends.
Right.
You know.
All right. So we're running out of time. So we got to get some of the questions that people posted.
Yes.
So Jason asked earlier, how did you get out of the routine of taking lemons? So think about somebody who's working at in-house somewhere or working corporate, and maybe they're the only designer or maybe they're not. How did you get out of just taking what they were giving you?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because this last 2 weeks, I've kind of had a crappy last 2 weeks, and I've kind of been letting I've kind of been getting lemons again and not making the lemonade and just kind of like, and I'm like blah, and I'm like, I've got all this stuff and I've got all these great opportunities starting to happen, and I'm not taking a hold of them, and I'm starting to wallow a little bit in a hole again. I just kind of was doing that, but I realized in the last 2 weeks or so I was keeping it internal again, and that's the thing. Like all this stuff I'm doing, man. Let me tell you, it is vigilance. It is for 15, 20 years. I was like I was. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I've got to really watch. And in the last couple of weeks, I found myself going into kind of a dark hole again a little bit and feeling blah. And like last night, I was sitting on the couch with Kristen. And I just was like, I just like dumped everything out. And we just talked through and everything. And it's like today, I think you saw it on Facebook and Twitter. I was like, all right, screw this, game on, let's go. So talk, get it out there, vocalize, talk to your wife, talk to your girlfriend, talk to your friends, talk to the design community. Don't be afraid to tell people you're in a bad mood, a crappy mood on Twitter, Facebook. Stop the fake. Everything's perfect today. My freelance business is going great. I bet you it's not going great. I bet you you've had a really crappy few weeks and no clients have called you. It's all right to say that, man, because you know what? Maybe I have a client that I don't necessarily want that I could give to you because they're perfect for you or whatever. Like, I really try to make it a point to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've had a lot of really good to share lately. And I haven't been sharing kind of the growing pains and the ugly that I've been going through, and I'm kind of I'm going to get ready to start writing some blog posts and everything about that again. I'm like, hey, guess what? You might see me with a smile on my face, but
Right.
So that's the thing, is just like get it out there, communicate, talk to people, connect with people.
So in taking lemons may be, is it standing up for yourself in the meetings, or is it changing the job, or what is it?
Yeah, it can. I've probably said, like, I've talked to a lot of people since Creative South, email, Skype, in person, and I've kind of sat back and I said, there's going to be a lot of design agencies who are probably really pissed at me because I'm telling all their employees to quit. Which, that's kind of a paraphrase of it, but like I sit back with people and I'll be like, well, it's a good job, or I like this, but this is this and this, and it's like one of those things where it's like, that's awesome that they treat you well, or they do this, or then whatever. Are you happy? Figure out what you need to make you happy. The first step would be go talk to your job, go talk to somebody, go talk to them, see if you can change the situation that you're in. If not, out, go, get out, do something. You have one time. We're spinning around once.
Right. I think people stop valuing their self because other people have stopped valuing them. Yep. And it's like you have to reposition yourself. It's kind of like a rebrand of yourself at that company, and you have to change something so that they see a difference.
Yep. And it may even be that the other people value you. I know people whose jobs, they do value them, and they do love them, and they do appreciate them, but it's still not what necessarily maybe what somebody wants to do entirely. So you got to not always put your value, make your value somebody else's value. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's good that other people value and you like it, but if you're still not happy, make a change.
Right. All right. So he had another question later on. So, and I think this kind of goes to the same sort of thing. If you're in that situation where you're not, either you don't feel like they value you, or your opinion maybe, or your, I think you have to like show them what the design community is doing. You may want this, but this really isn't good for where we are. I have a meeting like that scheduled with a client on Friday.
Yeah.
But how do you, which is always hard, but if you prove to them to show it, I think, some other people besides just you are thinking this. So, but he asked, how do you build your confidence when it's waning? What's the best way you personally built your confidence back up?
was from getting it. So it's kind of a catch-22. You're afraid to get out there because you don't have any confidence, but the best way to build your confidence is to get out there. Yeah, I just got myself in front of people and started putting out work, and just putting it out there and putting out myself, you know, and just kind of opening myself up and to people and situations and things like that. And so when you get that feedback, and again, you know, it could be viewed as shallow by some, but like, you know, it's okay to go fishing for a compliment sometimes. You know, that might be what you need to do to kind of feel a little bit better. You know, that's why I say go ahead and let people know you're in a bad mood, and let 20 people chime in and go, man, you're awesome, go for it. You know,
right.
That's okay. We need that. We need that as human beings. So that's kind of, yeah, is that. Just,
I also think people can reach out to like a mentor, somebody who they admire. It may be somebody younger than them that's really doing awesome work, but they have that skill that maybe somebody else is trying to possess, and that you take the advice and you ask for real feedback.
yes.
I think that's some people are afraid to do that, and then they get their feelings hurt, and then it's like, hey, you know what? It's not about you. We want to get you better, and if you really want to get better, you got to take the feedback and change and do something. And I think that maybe that's some of the stuff you got with AIGA Raleigh, or maybe you just came out of the womb super talented.
I don't know about that, but I'm definitely like still learning always. I mean, and the other thing is to be able to own it. Like, I will confidently tell anyone I'm a good designer, a good illustrator. I know what I'm good at. I'm a good guitar player. You know, so it's okay to, you know, so be confident. You know, so one way to build it with confidence is to say, what are you good at, and own it. Like, I know I'm good at that stuff.
Right.
Doesn't mean I can't be better. Doesn't mean I don't want to be better. But I think it's completely okay to go, yep, I'm a pretty kick-ass designer. I'm a pretty kick-ass illustrator. You know, I'm a pretty kick-ass guitar player. I can be way better. And there's other people I admire and can learn from and all that. But man, yeah, own it.
Right. So Matt also asked, is there a program you prefer, like Vector or Raster, Illustrator or Photoshop kind of, and then what's your biggest challenge?
Definitely, I almost always start paper, pencil, and brush pen now for illustrating. Right now, I'm kind of playing around with everything. I love Illustrator, but I've really been getting heavily into Photoshop and playing with my Cintiq and starting to take my illustrations to the digital world, because I'm getting ready to kind of start my next phase of world domination in the next couple months, of actually kind of putting out things that people have been saying they want from me, like we like this, and I'm starting to work on that. So I'm kind of playing. So really, I have probably used Illustrator 10 times more in the last year than Photoshop. I see that starting to do a little bit of a shift as I'm starting to illustrate and paint and stuff more.
Well, and I also think, let's look at some of your I call them napkins, sorry, but they're your notes to Bella. And yeah. I also think it's practice. So maybe it's not every night, because I don't think you have her. I think you have 1 week on, 1 week off or something.
Correct.
So it's like every night for a week or for 5 days that you're making these. And I think they're pretty impressive, but I also think you get better the more you study what you want to be, as
yes.
well as the more you do, the more you make.
You are exactly right. For instance, for screen printing, until I found the space that I could screen print in, and it's not this one, this was before, this is like my new space, and I know we have some pictures of that too. I read and watched YouTube videos. I knew so much about screen printing that I had never actually done, that I could tell people what to do, because that was the thing, I immersed myself. So now I am starting to do that with illustration. I am done. I don't read web design blogs anymore. I have done that stuff for so long. I'm not an expert at it. I don't need to read up on it anymore.
Right.
I can do what I need to know how to do and all that. So I'm like just all about illustration books and history and looking at the past and immersing and learning. So the stuff for Bella is just a daily exercise. Again, weird, very bathroom sophomore sense of humor. Yeah. I like that one because I like the way I drew his nose, the finger in his nose.
Oh yeah.
And it's practice. It's 30 to maybe 45 minutes a night from 0 to color and done. I impose that on myself just so I can't just go and go and go for hours. I wanted to make it kind of this quick hit kind of thing.
So do you come up with these words as well? Because they're kind of crazy too, and I love them.
Yeah. And some of it, like, I mean, we have really, like, the humor in our house is just like junior high, and so sometimes things will come out of like a weird conversation or something silly Bella and I said to each other. And it's just like, what are the weirdest things you can put stuff together at? You know, it's just, yeah, just kind of. I was a huge fan of like Ren and Stimpy and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so it's.
So let's go through some of the studios. So the studio, and I don't know if all these are. Let me go back a little bit.
And I'm gonna. A lot of people, just real quick to go into the studio. Then a lot of people have been asking me to do things with Lunchbox Love, like prints, posters. People have talked about a book and all that, and so I'm working on stuff, and I'll say that. I'm definitely doing, I'm working on my first poster that will be for sale, hopefully in the next, I'm going to say 3 months, just because if I say month, I know I'm going to screw myself. So by the end of the summer, I'm just trying to be realistic. So I'm actually getting ready to start merchandising things like Lunchbox Love, and I have a couple other ideas too. So I'm excited about that, and that's what's pushing me to do stuff next.
I think that's great. So that's maybe what's down the road for you. Do you want to kind of take us through these pictures?
Yeah. Can I actually see them bigger by? Can I make the screen?
Can you click on that box next to me? Next to you, down at the bottom. I don't know.
Ah, there we go. Yes.
Okay. Everybody else is seeing them bigger, but you have control of your own screen.
Okay.
But I have control of theirs.
So yeah. So I had a little screen printing space with the equipment I purchased thanks to AIGA Raleigh, and I just decided that it was like one of those times where it was like, it's time to put up or shut up. I wanted to get out of the house and stop working from home. I wanted to go to work and come home, and so I, with absolutely no business planning, with absolutely no money, with absolutely no nothing, I just said, the heck with it, I'm gonna rent a space, just go. Like, that was the other thing. It's like, you know what, I'm 42. You know, I hope I still have much more than half of my life to go still, but hey, you know what? I'm 42. It's starting.
Right.
And it's just time to go. And so thanks again to our creative community here. I rented a space, and you know, a few of those back that you were showing were, you know, us building the space. It was a white concrete box. So you look at that. Yeah, that one right there specifically. That's how it looked when I walked in. And if you jump ahead 2, I think. So if you look at the one on the collage that's on the left, that is turned around. So that is from what you were seeing looking the other way.
Like where that white door is, you would see Lenny sitting normally.
Correct. I'm literally, like, you could almost see me through that little window pane door that's right there. That's right now is where I am at currently. And yeah, we just turned this dank, dark warehouse space, not even dark, it was bright white actually, into just something that's just got some character. And you know, Diane, you were able to come visit when you came.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So I threw that in there because that name tag right there I stole from my last full-time job. Like, that was the name tag I had at that game company. And when I left, I took it with me, and I've put it up in every office that I've ever been in. It's just kind of a reminder of where I was. And that pencil sharpener is something Chris got me for my birthday. It's just a really cool pencil sharpener.
And I don't know if there's another picture of her lights, but I think there are. Isn't there?
I think there's a close-up one of the bulbs in there somewhere. I just wanted to make a space that I could create in, feel inspired by, but also inspire other people. You know, to come out, to make stuff. So here's some more building shots. That's Kristen in the white jacket over there building the reclaimed wood wall. And there's my friend Sarah up top from Shed Letterpress, amazing letterpress artist right here in Durham, helping her build that wall.
The wall is super cool.
There's one of my little drawing dudes. So I actually did that little guy before I ever did my first Lunchbox Love, but it started to inform the style that I use.
Yeah.
And I tend to lean towards that kind of style of stuff.
I think sometimes it's hard when you're starting to find what your style is and to be able to reproduce that style on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Totally. I can't read the chat while I'm looking at your T-shirts. So you are printing T-shirts, and this is a question I asked you. I was like, are you trying to get work to do printing? And you said, no, you know, I'm really trying to do my own thing. So you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, so I am taking print jobs, but I want it to be, I would love to make it more where it's my designer buddies and designers who want to get stuff printed. So if I'm not printing my own quote-unquote cool work, I can print other people's cool work. So even when I'm printing and doing that awesome physical manual labor that I want to do, I'm still making cool stuff. So I'm definitely taking print jobs, but it's not my focus eventually. So there's one of my focuses is Old South. Matter of fact, all those shirts you see on that table are going to be Old South Supply Company t-shirts.
And so that's something else. You jumped into partnering. You said, hey, Mike, I want to do something with you. And then you and Mike Jones have this company called Old South. So, again, it wasn't you sitting on the back row. You said, hey, let's do something, right?
Yep. I walked out of Creative South 14. He said, I want to collaborate. I said, I have an idea. Called a week later, and I told him about Old South. We hadn't named it yet, but I had a product. And we came up with Old South Supply Company, and then we launched it at WMC Fest 14 that summer, and then did the big launch at Creative South 15. And we now have a third partner, Michael Porter, who helped run our table at Creative South. And we're just, people are asking, where's the website, where's the stuff, and it really is coming. We really are working on it. We are taking our time. We are going to do it right, and we are going to scale it right to make sure that it's just done right. Yeah, that's the part of the chandelier that Kristen built for my lounge.
So Kristen is a vet, but she's also creative, and so I think that's really cool that you have this other kind of part that you can share with her, and she can understand that.
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant on every level, from street smarts to book smarts. Like, she's crazy smart and crazy creative. For our first Christmas together, she built me a cigar box ukulele. She just does all this amazing stuff. So she's brought all this out in me, and I've brought the same stuff out in her.
Right.
So we've pushed each other into new places.
Well, we didn't even get to finish half of what I wanted to talk about. So, I do think you should talk it out. There's kind of a chat over there with Jason, Craig, and Johnny Gwynn. So hopefully, I think burnout is a big thing for designers, especially if you're go, you're running, you're doing your thing. It's hard. I think you get to a point where, and maybe that's kind of where you were. You have to take a stand of, hey, this is what I'm going to do, instead of maybe what you were doing before. And so I'm really inspired by you, Lenny. It does seem like you had kind of got delivered some bad crate of lemons at some point, but you've made the best lemonade, and I can't wait to drink it. Right? It's like one of those things that you just from your struggle. So I definitely want to encourage people to reach out and to you or to other people, to their friends, to a mentor, somebody who they can talk to and talk about that struggle.
Yeah, definitely. Lenny at heymonkeydesign.com is my email. I'm everything at heymonkeydesign, Instagram, Dribble, all that. Like, get a hold of me, contact me. We'll Skype. I Skype with people all the time. I've Skyped with Shauna and Brittany, and we just, mentoring. I'm happy to do. I don't think I mentor people. I think we mentor together. Like, when you're talking to someone, you're going to learn something. I've learned more from the 23-year-old and 25-year-old designers and artists and illustrators out there, because they have that creative energy I wish I had. So they excite me. So, definitely, get a hold of people, talk to people, surround yourself with people. I couldn't be making the lemonade without people like you and Kristen and Mike Jones and AIGA Raleigh. I've got people in here. I see Amy and Sophia, and I am totally not sure if Hannah is our AIGA Hannah or not, but if not, hey, Hannah. But just people, surround yourself with people and friends and lean on them. And be there for them to lean on as well, and don't be afraid to tell people that it's been a crappy day, because I bet you by the end of it, it could be a good one. Right.
All right, so I want to give some places for people to connect with you. So Dribble, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yep,
pretty much. Hey,
yep.
Monkey.
Hey Monkey Design for all of them.
And then your website is heymonkeydesign.com.
Yep.
So again, he's always happy to reach out, and maybe you can get in some of his times. I know that there's always a struggle. It's never going to be perfect, and it's nice when you see designers that don't have it all together that are awesome, right? What was your band name? Johnny wants to know.
I'll type it, because sometimes it was Mighty Lester. Here, hold on.
And then if you want to probably anyway, I'm going to share, if you don't know already, you can always look at all the old archives at designrecharge.org, or you can go to this Recharging You, the show, the blog part. And then you also can follow me on Twitter at Design Recharge and Instagram at Design Recharge, or on Twitter at Diane Gibbs AU, and I'll plop those up there as well. And next week sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just if anybody's going to be at WMC Fest, I'll be there. I am going to be helping run the Old South Supply Company table. I'm going to be there cheering on our brother Mike Jones, who's speaking. And I also just found out that this year I am actually going to be the host of Ink Wars. So I am super excited to have at Creative South Bend an Ink Wars competitor, and at WMC Fest I'm actually going to get to be the host of Ink Wars. So I'll be up there, helping run the show this year. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm also going to be doing a lot of work. I'm a sponsor of WMC Fest this year, so shirts and posters and stuff that other people will have designed, I will have printed. So I'm going to be, again, I'm going to be all over that joint. So I'm really excited to hopefully see people up there, and let's just throw down and party and hug and have some fun.
That sounds awesome. So if you want to get in touch with Lenny, or you want to connect, you want to see the work that he's doing, Hey Monkey Design on Instagram, Twitter, or Dribbble, or go to his website, heymonkeydesign.com. And I think for me, I always get out is just keep going, talk to other people when you're frustrated, and also just get out there. Keep pushing yourself. And hopefully I got most of the questions answered that were over there in the chat, but I just wanted to tell you thanks. Thanks for being inspiration. Thanks for being real. And thanks for not having it all figured out and being able to share that part.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I'm ready for the sequel. Let's do it.
Dan already said it, and really we already talked about it because I was like, there's too much to cover, and we really didn't get far. But I did get everything down, I think, that everybody wanted. So next week we're doing something me and the little mouse in my pocket is doing just like a 20-minute thing called Rapid Recharge, where I'm just going to give you a little bit. It'll be once a month. Not like last week, but it'll just be a 20-minute little thing, and I think it's probably going to be about pricing your work, but I'm not exactly sure, so it's just up in the air. So I hope you join me for a quick 20 minutes next week, and if you have any questions, send them my way, and I'll try to get them across. We'll kind of do it as office hours. And Lenny, just thank you so much. You have awesome work. I can't wait to get posters or cards, or I think cards would be awesome for your lunchbox things. I would totally send those cards.
All right, I'll add cards to the list. It wasn't on the list.
Man, that would be great. That would be a really good one. Anyway, so thank you guys. I'm glad, Megan, first time tuning in, so thank you guys for coming. Johnny wants me to plug my superpower.
Yes.
So last week I talked about finding your superpower and telling your story, and really what it's about is for anybody who may be struggling with maybe they're not in the position they want, or they want to get more clients. Exactly what Lenny was talking about, how you want to do the work that you love instead of just doing the work. Just doing work. I'm just going to say it like that. We all have clients like that. So it's about that. So that's what the course is about. Feel free to use the coupon code I gave you last week, or the coupon code you got at Creative South, and hopefully you'll sign up. And I've got some people going through the course now, and I've gotten great feedback, so I'm really excited to share that stuff when they start publishing their work, to share their stuff, share their superpowers. So check it out, and I will see. And we love you too, Jason, and I'm excited. You guys had great conversations over there in the chat, and that's another reason I love doing it like this. When I switched platforms, that was one of my the necessary musts, because it's such a big deal about having a place for you guys to come and heckle, or you can come and really feel like you make a difference in what we talk about, because I really think that you're super important, and I know what it was like for me when I felt kind of alone, and so this helped me not feel so alone, so I hope you feel like you were part of it. So thank you, Jeremy, for being my awesome tester and my finding your superpower. So Lenny, thanks again, and I can't wait to have you back on.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, guys.